Flights are pricey, planning feels chaotic, and that family trip keeps getting pushed. I hear it every day from business owners and busy professionals, and I felt it too. I'm Ross, the founder of Itinerary Boss, and your host. After 10 plus years of planning work and personal trips to over 20 countries, I became the guy who found the deals and turned points into upgrades. This show helps you turn everyday business and personal spend into points and miles for premium travel. Each week, you'll get step by step tactics and short episodes, plus expert guests with specific use cases tied to your most asked questions for travel plans that'll help support your business, goals, and your life. Go ahead and grab the free Points and Miles cheat sheet in the show notes to speed up your learning. And now, on with the show. Welcome back to another episode of World Travel Made Easy. I'm excited on this week to have the CardPointers team and Brooke on, and really excited just to show everyone how to be able to optimize your daily spend with your points, but also share the app that CardPointers has. And Brooke has been so nice to be able to join us. How's it going today, Brooke?
Yeah, it's going great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. I've watched quite a few of your episodes in the past, and I know you really know what you're talking about. I know your audience really values what you have to say, so I'm just delighted to be able to be here and to be able to chat with you about some of the things that I'm really passionate about.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate the prep work and everything, watching prior to coming on and excited to for you to share, how card pointers can, help some of our listeners, whether they're experts, whether they're just getting started, whether they're just trying to figure out a way to, right, not make this be overwhelmed and
Yeah.
something that we find easy, but others find overwhelming. So just before we get started, could you give us a little bit of background of what Card Pointers is and kind of your role there?
Sure. I actually started this role in February, but I've been an end user of card pointers for 6 years, which is hard to believe. So card pointers has been around for a long time, and I've been an end user, and like most of you, I just wanted a way to make it easier. So earning points, earning miles, earning cash back, those can be complicated. The banks make it complicated. It can be hard to remember. Now, if you're an expert, it can be a little bit easier, but we've got some expert features for you too. So hang in there. But as an end user, I just found this, I discovered this app and I just started emailing with the founder and I said, "Hey, this is amazing." And then when I left my last position, I said, "Hey, I'd love to come on. I'd love to get this in the hands of more people." So it was literally just born, my role here was just born out of a passion for this product and a passion for making this entire experience easier. So Card Pointers at its core is an app that's going to make sure that every dollar you spend earns you the most cash back, miles, and points possible. And it's going to work in conjunction. So we've got the app, of course, and it's going to work in conjunction with our browser extension. So for those of you that are very new, you might not know what a browser extension is, but most of you have probably heard of one. You might use Honey, for example, for coupons, or most of you, if you follow Ross, you use Rakuten, right? So that you can maximize those Amex points. But Card Pointers is going to also be, so we've got our app over here, of course, and then we've got our browser extension. And the browser extension has a lot of really cool features as well. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about that. We can get into the nitty gritty of exactly what it does. We can talk high level. We can talk about my favorite earning, my favorite way to save money. You tell me where we're going from here.
No, I love it. Yeah, and before we dive in, because when I was prepping for this, I was like, this is great because my some of my favorite episodes are when tools that I use daily, tools that others, right, I recommend to whether it's clients, whether it's people getting started out and are just like, where do I start? I love having these type of episodes because you get to share it in real time and share your experience. And I love hearing that story too of you started using it 6 years ago and you had such a passion of let's make this easier for people that you just went and joined and a position was created out. So that's awesome. And I can say from my personal experience, like having to figure out, okay, how do I keep all of these, right? Like credit cards, and then what are the best ones to use? And this, like over time, 10 plus years, it becomes like second nature. But trying to figure all that out when you're first starting, and then all the new, right? Bonus alerts, transfer bonuses, elevated bonuses, new cards, different things that come out, right? It is so many mental gymnastics. And if this isn't your full-time role, like having tools accessible like card pointers is awesome. So no, I'm really excited to dive in. So yeah, if you want to just let some of the listeners know, I just how does it simplify kind of the process for understanding which card to use. And if you want to dive in and share your screen, if you feel that's kind of easier to walk through, we can
Sure.
do that too.
Sure. So we do have a discount code for all of you who are watching. So I'm going to put that at the bottom so you'll see that. But if you get excited as we're talking about it and you're like, hey, I really want to get my hands on this, we do have a 30% discount for all of Ross Itinerary Boss's followers. So just as a thank you for having us. So a couple of things. So when you're first, let's say you're first starting out, let's talk about beginners. Different cards are going to have different earning potential. So, for example, an Amex card might earn on a certain category, and a Capital One card might earn on a different category, for example. And it's difficult to keep track of all of those different things. So, let's say, for example, you're going out to purchase gas, and you can't remember, let's say, you have two cards in your wallet, or three, or 60, and you can't remember which card is going to earn you 4x, 5x, 10x, whatever the multiplier is on that. What you're going to do is you're just going to take out the app, right? So we talked about the app, and you're going to type into the best card wizard wherever you are, wherever you're going, whatever you're buying. And it's going to automatically tell you which card to use. So, for example, let's say you're out purchasing Starbucks, for example. We all go to Starbucks. Starbucks, feel free to come on in, sponsor this episode. We all love you. But let's say you're going to Starbucks. So you just open your phone, you open the app, and you just see, you type in Starbucks, and it's going to tell you which card to use. Now, it's going to do that for a couple of different things. So, one, it's going to tell you which card is, of course, going to earn the most points, right? Or miles or cash back. For example, if you have a co-branded card. But it's also going to tell you if you have an offer. So, offers are you familiar with offers? Is your audience familiar with offers?
Yeah, but I
Okay.
think breaking it down for the audience would be really helpful.
Sure. So offers are things that your credit card is going to offer you, obviously. And I'll screen share in just a second, kind of show you what that looks like. And those are offers where you either spend a certain amount and you get a certain amount of cash back, or you spend a certain amount and you earn a certain amount of points. Now, those are sometimes targeted. So you might see an offer on my screen that you might not have, but I would just encourage you to keep adding those offers because the more you add, the more they're going to give you. And so typically, on any credit card at any given time, you're going to have several hundred offers. Now, those can be difficult to keep track of, right? Those can be, oh, wait, did I screenshot that? Did I write that down? Do I have a sticker? Some people use those cute little stickers from Etsy. CardPointers is sort of going to do all of that heavy lifting for you. So, as far as offers goes, let's talk about that for a minute and then we'll sort of circle back to the app. But as far as offers go, so we have our browser extension, which I mentioned before, and that's something you install and it's going to sync with the app. So with the browser extension, you're going to log into your bank. We don't keep any of that information. We don't ask for any of that information. I don't want your bank account information. You don't want to give it to me. I don't want you to give it to my itinerary boss. We want it to stay safe on your device. And what it's going to do, and I'll show you this in just about 30 seconds, is it's going to automatically activate when you log into your bank account all of your offers. So if you're doing it the traditional way, you have to go in and you have to click add offer because you do have to activate these offers. And then you have to scroll down to the next one. And then you have to click add offer. And then you have to scroll down to the next one. Now, Amex made it a little bit easier just recently. They just updated, depending on when you're watching this podcast episode, and added a little plus button, but it's still painful to go through that whole process. So let me share my screen here and I'll show you what it looks like with card pointers.
Yeah, and I can say as you're transitioning to sharing your screen, it is like being able to not have to think of, oh, what was that? I wanted to take a quick break to say thank you so much for tuning into the show. The only way the show grows is through listeners like you helping us share it. So if you're enjoying the show, it'd mean the world to me if you hit that 5-star rating, shared it with a friend or family member who's ready to travel more, save money, or just needs a little bit more inspiration and that nudge. And if you're posting about it on Instagram, go ahead and tag Itinerary Boss, and we'll make sure to reshare it and shout you out for giving us a shout out. Thanks so much for the support. It truly means a lot. And now back with the show. Oh, what was that offer? I saw this in the said bet, right? Like Chase, Capital One, Amex portal. And then you go and you forget having this on the go or just having a reminder. And then when those elevated offers come out, like, and if you have multiple cards, this is where it gets really fun. And even if you're just getting started out, it's like this sets the foundation for if you start to get another card, this is where I find the most value from it.
Yeah. So let me just log in here So I'm going to move this. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
So I'm just going to go to chase.com and I'm going to log in, of course, and this sort of lives on my desktop. And you're going to see at the bottom, Card Pointers is going to activate all of my offers. So check a look at that little box right there. So it added 122 offers in about 8 seconds. So that's pretty magical. When you think about the process of going in and adding all of those, so now you're probably asking yourself, okay, cool. I added 122 offers. Now where are those? Cool. So now they're synced with your app. So now you can sort them, you can edit them, you can bulk edit them, and you can really, really dive in to get that value. Let me show you on Amex as well, because I just really love this stuff. Let me see here.
And if someone is, so say someone, are you able to favorite those offers? So say someone is like, hey, I love to shop at X store. So let's just say Lululemon, since you have it up, for example.
I do, I do.
Go
You
with the new.
absolutely can.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I'm thinking through like, okay, I have the new Platinum personal card, right? Like, and I have a $75 quarterly, credit that I can use there. I want to make sure that I activate that offer. So if there is some sort of offer, right, I can start to utilize, that as a double dip strategy.
That's exactly right. Yep, that's what we call stacking. So that's when you're starting to stack those offers on top of each other. It really, really, really gets
Oh yeah.
juicy. So let me show you. Let me just move this down a little bit. So let me show you. At first, I was going to show you Amex, but let me just show you, for example, what's going to happen. So you saw that I just activated all of my offers, right? 122 offers. So now a lot of people choose to shop online. Of course, we can talk about shopping in person, but shopping online, here's where the browser extension gets really cool. So let me just go to Hyatt.com, for example. I know a lot of you are Hyatt fans. See that little purple box in the bottom there? That's going to tell you which card that you want to use, and you can set it for how long you want it to stay on your screen. So, for example, it told me that I should use my Amex Green card. So, my Amex Green card has an offer right now, and you saw that in the little purple box that says if I spend $500, I'm going to get $100 back. So that's just money. That's free
Yeah.
money that I might not even know existed, that might not even know was out there. So in order to get these offers, you have to do two things, right? You have to activate them. We talked about that. You can use the manual process, but Ross and I both prefer that you use the automated process just because it's better. And then, of course, the second way is then to go and then make sure that when you're on that website or when you're shopping, that you use that offer. And that's how the average card pointer user saves $250, sorry, $750 a year. I said $250 because I just had a $250 offer that I just used. So I get that in my head, but the average card pointer user saves $750 a year. And so whether you are, say, for example, whether you are very, very beginning, right? And you just want to use the browser extension to activate your offers so that you get a free here and a free there and a fun, or you're a power user where you really are diving in and you're making sure that every single dollar, every single credit, every single part of that annual fee is used to its maximum, CardPointers is going to work for you.
I love that. And I love how you also said at the end to that annual fee, because I think a lot of people, when they're getting to that when they're starting out, it's, I got to get a $0 annual fee card, but they're not kind of outweighing the different benefits of how you can offset that. But then you also have the more experienced people who have had maybe those cards for a while and they see the annual fee going up and they're thinking, well, I don't want to have to pay this, but they're not thinking through a lot of the times the different credits they're getting. But then also, like you just said, even for some of the highest annual fee cards, if you're utilizing card pointers in the correct way, like that's knocking off the annual fee by itself, because with those other cards, you're already getting those travel credits. So it's like just strategies like that for the everyday user is huge. And then from a just again the manual process, I can say this from doing this for right when I first got my Capital One venture and going there and looking in the portal and then getting my Sapphire Reserve and doing that process. And like those are my two main daily driver cards, but couple years ago when I started to get more, it was like, okay, I got to figure out what is a tool that will really help me like make this easier so I don't have to track that. And when it starts to come around where I do want to do, whether it's online shopping or purchase something, like how can I then stack those rewards and start to earn even more? I'm curious, just from a like stackable standpoint, since we're on that topic, I when you pulled up your browser and you were sharing your screen, you also had Rakuten. I know there's a new one that I really like called SaveWise, and there's a couple others. So, like, when you're doing some of that online shopping, like how do you, for a personal example, like is there ways that you personally stack those offers with card pointers and those tools?
Yes.
Okay.
Stacking is my love language, Ross. So
I
I'm
love it.
glad you
I love
asked. So
it.
yes, so let's circle back just for a second and talk about those annual fees because we can talk about how to get the value out of that. So I get it, annual fees feel ugh. Nobody wants to pay $900 for the privilege of using someone else's card, right? But with those annual fees, right, come a series of benefits. And it's kind of been called in the sort of travel spheres is like the couponification, right, of credit cards. Because it used to just be that you had an offer, you used an offer, but now it's you have to spend 300, to get 100 or whatever. And so I get it, those annual fees can feel ugh, right? But they come with a series of benefits that if you use can double or triple offset that cost. So even though $900, for example, that's the highest we've got out there right now with the Amex flat, aside from, some sort of specialty cards. But by and large, that's really, the biggest one is going to come with at least $900 worth of benefits. And it's incumbent upon you to make sure that you use those. So Card Pointers is going to remind you of all of those credits before they go to waste. So we can circle that back to, for example, stacking. So for example, it's going to remind me, oh, you have a $10 DoorDash credit. You have let's say, a $25 Uber credit, for example. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to Uber Eats. I'm going to activate my Rakuten. Let's say it has, for example, let's say Uber Eats this is just an example, right? So if you're watching this and you're like, wait, Rakuten doesn't have 10x on Uber Eats for me today, right? This is just an example. Then what you're going to do is, so for example, let's say I have a $25 Uber Eats credit, right? So for example, I know that that's on let's say my Amex Gold, for example. Again, just examples. What you're going to do is you're going to go to Uber Eats and you're going to type in whatever restaurant you're going to. You're going to spend $23. The delivery fees included, you'll add a tip. So let's say you're at $27. You're going to 10x that by adding that Rakuten so that now you're stacking. So now not only have you gotten a $27 meal, for $2. But you've also earned 270 points. And that's where it starts to get really, really fun because you've earned 270 points off of basically a $2 spend. So that's where I love stacking. We could talk about that for the rest of the episode. But yeah, yeah, I mean, you know, you can stack in a variety of different ways, right? You can stack with offers, but at its very core, right, Card Pointers is going to make sure that you're using the right card. And then when you can stack on top of that, it just gets more and more fun. At the very basics, you want to make sure that you're using the right card, right? You're using the card with that offer. You're using the card with that multiplier. And then that's where you can start to add all the fun stuff on top of that.
Yeah, and I love that you took a step back and you talked about the annual fees and how you like a personal example of how you offset that because yeah, that Uber Eats credit, you're getting that $2 meal, but then you know how to use Rakuten, you know how to translate those into right Amex points. So you already and I think the biggest thing is for people who aren't like you and me who we love this and we're like, oh, I know I have that DoorDash credit that, for with my Sapphire Reserve that I get every 2 weeks for $10 that I know I can just go in DoorDash and have groceries shipped and I'm going to net even because I'm going to tip out what it costs and I'm going to be
Yep.
for 2 weeks. Like that's simple for me, but and just knowing those other things when they come out, like just having those reminders so you can maximize some of those benefits. And it's funny, a friend commented on one of my LinkedIn posts yesterday. He's like, how do you remember all this, like every single credit? And I'm like, sometimes you may not use the Saks credit if you don't shop there. You may not use like for someone who doesn't shop there, but if you're still getting out $2,400 out of that, you're still getting a ton of value. So it's like just thinking too, like what specifically do you personally want to use from the card? And then having those reminders is huge, and then being able to double down and really stack is I I love that example because you're like, oh, well, I just got a $2 meal where I didn't have to go out and I just got 270 Amex points from just a couple simple clicks.
Yep.
And the best part is it's probably something that once you do it once, it becomes a habit and like, okay, this is the meal that costs this much, or this is how much the groceries cost, and this, you know what I mean? And then it's already there, so you just have to hit order again, boom, and then it's just simple.
You got it.
I love it. I love it. Are there I guess like from a because a lot of people too are business owners. So a lot of the people that I work with are business owners. Are there any specific use cases for them that you see just with some of the business cards?
Yeah, so typically, if you're a business owner, then your spending threshold is just a lot higher, right? So the average person is not going to be spending, say $100,000 a month. And that seems like a lot, but if you're a business owner and say, for example, you run a trucking company, right? You might be paying that much in gas every month. Or if you own a medical spa, you might be purchasing that much in medical supplies or things like that. So it just really takes it to the next level if you're a business owner. So let's use the trucking business, for example. Let's say you own a trucking business. And we do have multiple CardPointers users that are business owners and we have one that I love who's a trucker and owns his own trucking company, right? So it's going to be important. So let's say you're spending $100,000 a month on gas, which again, to the average user seems like a lot, but to a business owner, right? That's just going to be their average spend. At that point, you're really going to be able to level up your amount of points you're earning by making sure that all of your employees are using the right card. So, for example, you might have an offer for, let's say, Amex Green, for example, and that particular month or that particular quarter. So, for example, like the Chase card has different rotating categories, and you want to make sure that you are using those amazing multipliers. So, let's say it's 4x on gas, for example. You want to make sure that that $100,000 a month that you're spending is not earning 100,000 miles, but is earning 400,000 miles, right? Because that's a game changer for you. Now, oftentimes these credits have a limit. You can only spend X amount and get it. But the example remains the same. And one thing that CardPointers does that's really, really unique. So obviously, of course, if you have just a higher spending threshold, then the opportunity for earning, the opportunity for cash back is just going to be that much higher. There was an offer recently with Amex that was spend $1,000 on UPS, get 65% back. That's real money. That's real money that real businesses can use, that you and I can use. That you, again, remember you have to activate it. So if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't activate it. And then you have to use it, of course, too. And CardPointers is going to remind you of that. But in addition to that, we also have this, and this is, whether you're a business user or you're just a regular commercial user, we have the opportunity to add profiles. So for example, if your P2 is not as into the game as you are, Ross's wife is I don't know if you saw the episode on their honeymoon, but it was kind of the most amazing honeymoon of all time. Like, set the bar really, really high. So if you haven't seen that, go back and watch that episode. But the point is, if you have a P2 or you have a series of employees, you can also add their profile and their cards. So at that point, you can also activate their offers. You can also track what they're doing. You can also, and I don't mean track in as much as you're tracking their spending, track in as much as you're tracking their earning. So for example, I have a P2 in the points and miles world, we call your P2 your player two, right? And the way when I grew up, so I'm a little bit older than a lot of you watching this, but player two was like how we used to do Mario, like when we were
Yep.
younger, right? And it was like
Mario and
my
Luigi.
brother, right? Like my brother was Mario because he's older and I was Luigi. So I always had to be the player two, right? So now my brother, of course, is off and has his own family and I'm married and I have, my P2. But our younger son just turned 18. So now we're moving into P3 mode. So I can track all of those. And if you're a business owner with, let's say you have 5 employees, that can really help you to make sure that they're, again, hitting those milestones so that they can, or rather hitting those earning multipliers so that those types of, so everybody has to spend money every day, right? And it's earning those points that's going to allow you to have all that fun, like all those amazing trips like that UC Ross plan, like his honeymoon, and all of those amazing things, right? So it's money you're already spending. We're not encouraging you to overspend, whether you're a small business, whether you're an end user, to get all those points so then you can have a lot of fun with those points.
Yeah, that's an amazing breakdown and some really good examples because most like a lot of the business owners that I work with are a lot of the times they're either have the wrong card or spending on the wrong right or are doing the wrong redemption or sometimes not even using the right card. So it's like
Right.
helping them understand, okay, how can you or if you're spending money on ads, like you should be earning 4 times the points, right? If you're like
Exactly right. Yep. Ads is a great example.
yeah, and like the gas example is great because a lot of the times it's people, business owners who have multiple employees and they're out using cards. So a lot of times they might not be. So it's like educating them, hey, if you have an authorized user and they're spending on their cards, like you understand you can be earning all of the points to then go out and take your family on a vacation or take your teams on retreats, however you want to do that. And I knew that just from being a sales rep for 10 years and like having an Amex green card and being like, great, like, sure, I'm getting the hotel loyalty points and the flight points from, the airlines and hotels, but I'm not getting the actual credit card points. So when I had about a year and a half where I was at a startup and they let me put everything on my card, like I was like, okay, my flights are direct and I'm gonna, I'm gonna book through the Chase portal because I can get 5 times on my reserve and just started stacking.
Yeah.
So yeah, me going back and thinking through that, it's like, okay, a lot of times business owners are making those mistakes, and it's just helping them also have a simple tool to help. And for families, I think that's great because, like you said, not everyone's always as into this. Like my wife is just like, tell me when I need to transfer I'm booking our South Africa tickets. I had a welcome bonus just hit today from one of my business cards, and I'm like, hey, I need you to send me over the rest of your Chase points so we can go ahead and book our flight. But for her, she's like, okay, tell me what I need to do, what I need to do, and here's the dates I'm good. And then everything else is handled, right?
Yep.
So, but for being able to track that and also help add them to there to make sure you're spending is great. And there's actually a really good episode I did with Cindy Greenstein, the Points mom, where
Yes.
she has 3 kids. If you haven't watched it or listened to it, go check it out. She talks through how she pretty much has utilized her kids earning her points along with setting up strategies with her husband, who's a business owner, and how she kind of keeps all that organized and how they take these amazing trips just on points through doing that. So that's a really good episode if you want to go back and listen to that and combine that with this to build out a strategy. If you're a parent, if you have younger kids, if you have kids who are getting older, those are some action-packed things with tips from Brooke as well as Cindy. So definitely take a listen to
And
that.
if we can keep on the P2 for just a sec,
Yeah.
there is something really, really cool about card pointers. And obviously I get really excited about this, but keep in mind I did come in as an end user. So I was already passionate about this before I even got to talk about it. Now I get to talk about it for a living. How amazing is that? So one of the features of card pointers, so we talked about the app, of course, and we talked about the browser extension. And you're going to use both of those together, right? To make sure that every dollar you spend earns the most points, cash back, and miles possible. We also have a new feature for iPhones, not new, but brand newly updated, called Autopilot. Autopilot is one of my favorite features. So you can use it for yourself. So Autopilot, basically, you're going to turn it on and you're just going to say, hey Siri, turn on autopilot. Or for example, you can set if you have geofences, if you're like a real power user and you have geofences, it'll automatically start when you leave a certain perimeter from your house. And what autopilot is going to do, whether it's for you or I use it for my P2, is it's going to automatically tell you on your lock screen, you don't even have to unlock it, which card to use at the store you're going to. So let's say you're sending your husband or wife or partner out shopping, for example. Maybe they're out shopping for Christmas, Hanukkah presents, for example. You just tell it, hey Siri, activate autopilot. And autopilot right there on their screen is going to tell them as they walk around the mall, oh, Target, use this card, earn this points. Oh, tires, use this card, earn this points. And so it really simplifies the process. Not only for me, of course, I love that anyway, right? Because I'm not digging in, digging through, but especially for my P2, right? Because he's like, he doesn't have to call me, he doesn't have to text me, I don't have to write down stickers. He just looks on his lock screen, doesn't even have to unlock it, and it'll say, oh, Target, I should use this card. Got it. Use that
That's
card.
amazing.
So that's a really fun feature that you can use, with your P2, with your employees, so that again, it just makes it so simple. So that, like Ross was talking about that LinkedIn post, how do you remember it all? You don't. You let card pointers
Yeah.
remember it, right? You
Yeah.
let it do the automated heavy lifting. And that, it's just gonna help to elevate your points earning game.
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. Since you talked about geofencing, talk to me about that. How do you utilize that? What is it? Like, how do some business owners utilize it? I think it'd be good to learn more about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of unique to the Apple product. So if you are an Android user, fear not, we have a lot of features for you. They're just different platforms. And I should mention, by the way, that Apple loves us so much that we actually were named App of the Day twice, 3 times, twice this year, which is just their highest honor. So that's really, really extraordinary. And I don't mention that to like pat myself or the owner on the back, but because It's just such a well-built app. And it's really designed for the customer, right? It's really designed based on what you need. So geofencing is just this idea that if you move out of a certain location, you can tell your phone to do certain things. So for example, I can set a geofence outside of my home because I know, I have the browser extension, so I already know what I'm going to be spending as far as card pointers. But if I go outside of a certain location, it's going to automatically activate certain things like autopilot or CarPlay, for example. So CarPlay, do you have an Apple or do you have an Android phone?
I have Apple.
Okay, great. So some of you are familiar with CarPlay. Almost everyone who's ever rented a car, your rental car is going to have CarPlay, right? And so, for example, you can activate card pointers on CarPlay, and it'll show you like as you're driving around town. Like let's say, for example, you're on like a road trip, right? And it'll show you like as you're pulling off this exit where you should go for food to stop, where you should grab groceries, and where you should get gas. So that's just kind of an example of, kind of how we use those geofencing, how we use that term to kind of just, designate to our phone where we are.
Gotcha. Okay, that's helpful to understand from a card pointer standpoint. This has been awesome, Brooke. I'm already thinking through what I was some mistakes I've been making and how I can utilize it more and also utilize it with my wife. But is there anything else that you didn't cover that you want to share or leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I did want to mention again that we do have a discount for all of you that are watching, and we'll make sure to include that link. And yeah, go forth. We have two options. We have an annual option and we have a lifetime option. And I would say about 90% of our users choose that lifetime option, and that'll make sure that you get, brand new updates every year. But most people just want to pay for it once and then be done. Of course, we do have, the annual option as well, but most people choose that lifetime option because if you can pay for Netflix once and never have to pay for it again, that's a win, right?
Yeah.
So I did want to mention that as well. And again, whether you're a beginner user and you're just going, okay, I'm going to the gas station, which card am I going to use, right? Or you're an intermediate user that's like, yeah, I do have a card with an annual fee, and I do want to make sure that I get that $500 of value out. And you're activating your offers and you're using those offers. Or you're a power user, right? And you're making sure that you have maybe 50 cards or 20 cards, and you want to make sure that you get eke every single benefit out of those. Or you're a small business or a large business owner, and you want to make sure that all of those dollars you're spending are turning into magical vacations for you or for your employees. Card Pointers is going to have a way for you to really maximize those dollars. So again, whether you're a beginner, a newbie, I was there too, Ross was there too, we've all been there. Intermediate or advanced, I promise there's a benefit in there that's really going to help you to change your game around this.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I can say I still make mistakes. I still am always learning. I learned some things on this episode. That's one of my favorite parts about interviewing the experts at the companies who are building some of these amazing apps is like if I'm trying to use it daily, but I don't know, right? Like you said, you've been using it 6 years, you're a power user. The best part is when you're that power user, I always found when I was working at jobs and we'd hire people who were users of the products they were usually the best because they knew it inside and out. They're passionate about it and they could really just share the value in their specific use cases over the years. So no, I really appreciate you coming on, Brooke. Is there somewhere, that people can find you online, card pointers as well as you if they want to connect?
Yeah, so we're just at CardPointers or cardpointers.com/itinerary boss. And you can come and you can follow us and you can see all the amazing offers that are out there, all the ways that people are saving money in new and creative ways, and all the ways that people are earning more points.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you again. And for our listeners, if this is your first time listening, make sure you give us a follow or subscribe. That way you don't miss any upcoming weekly episodes that we put out. And also share it with a family or friend that you know may like to travel, that's just getting in the points and miles game. We really are trying to help people with these types of tools. So make sure you share that. That's how we help grow the show. And if you think Brooke deserves a 5-star review, I really do. Make sure you hit that 5-star review, and that'll help us continue to reach more people and bring on amazing guests like Brooke. But until next week, we appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.